it's Olivia and welcome back to Live in Literature. I just wanted to say a big thank you for all the people who watched my last video, and if you haven't seen it yet, head on over to the Live in Literature channel to check it out. And I just wanted to let all of you guys know, for those of you who are going to be entering the drawing for a new book, the link will be available in my next video that will be posted later this week. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up to keep thinking about those books that you might want to enter into the drawing for. And do not forget to keep commenting them in the comment section on any of the videos that I previously posted.
And now many of you guys are probably thinking to yourself, you're like, Olivia, what's with the glasses?
My glasses! I can't see without my glasses!
And this like kind of 50s inspired look, which by the way, I just want to talk about my outfit for a second. Hello, look how cute this headband is.
And I'm wearing like orange pants. Like you can't see the rest of me, but like you can see my orange pants. Like, and that's enough for me. Yeah, okay. So basically, I would have had a different video planned today, but the one and only and one of my most fabulously favorite authors in the entire world, Amy Harmon, last week just released her new book, The Songbook of Benny Lament by Amy Harmon. And Amy Harmon is an author I've looked up to and loved and adored for many, many years now. And I decided today that I wanted to do a favorite author tag starring Amy Harmon and her books, the reasons why I love her, and I just wanted to about this new book, The Songbook of Benny Lament, that she just dropped, and it is a 50s, 60s inspired book, and that's why I kind of have a 50s, 60s look going on today.
Hey mama, welcome to the 60s! Oh, 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 oh.
Hopefully you guys will appreciate it, but anywho. So I just wanted to gush and talk about Amy Harmon today and just like talk about what makes her so special as an author and why you guys should all go check her out and go check out her new book, The Songbook of Benny Lament. So let's get started. Amy Harmon. Now, Amy Harmon, I follow her on Instagram, and if you didn't see, well, if you do follow her on Instagram, or maybe if you would know of her, she is an author who just recently posted that she has now reached her 10-year anniversary of writing books.
Aye! 10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
So she's been writing books for a decade, and I only discovered her maybe a couple of years ago, like probably when I was like 17, and so it was like 4 or 5 years ago, which like, yikes, that was like 4, 6, 5, 7. I just said like 7 different numbers. Oh my gosh, okay. It was a while ago when I discovered her, but she is an author that I've held
Near and dear to my heart.
So I wanted to talk to you guys today about some of the most amazing books that she's written, the ones that have impacted me the most, and the reasons why I love her as an author. Reason number 1, Amy Harmon has variety.
She's a unique person.
She has a variety of genres, and I would say this is super unique for an author because I feel like a lot of authors stick to what they know.
A lot of authors, if they write realistic fiction, they write realistic fiction. If they write sci-fi, they write sci-fi. And that's all that they write.
Not Amy Harmon.
She has a variety of different types of genres. She writes realistic fiction, she writes historical fiction, she writes fantasy.
I don't know how she does it.
Like, she has so many different types of books that she writes. And I think it's so fascinating to see her try to take on all these different roles as an author of like writing different types of books. I'll be honest, I've read bits and pieces from every single one of her genres, and I've absolutely loved every single one of them. I think her historical fiction is
Off the charts, off the fashion charts, out of this world, all the chef's kisses, it is magnificent.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think that her fantasy is super unique and very interesting, and I love her world building, and I think it's so impactful and so powerful.
That's magnificent!
And we'll be honest, her realistic fiction slaps. There's nothing that can touch her realistic fiction. Her realistic fiction
is the moment. It is some of the deepest and most hard-hitting stuff that I've ever read, and I absolutely adore her for writing in so many different genres. Second reason why I love her is the way that she writes relationships. Now, she is by nature I wouldn't say strictly romance writer, but all of her books that I've read have had most, if not all, elements of romance. And so if you're not into romance, she's not going to be an author for you,
because a lot, if not all of her books are romance based.
All you need is love, love is all you need.
And the way she writes romances is realistic to me. Like, I think that she writes characters realistically. She doesn't write them with... When she writes about our relationship, she writes about the struggles, the hardships, the heartbreaking, the anger, the pain, the grit and the grime, and she writes about all of the ugly, and then it just like forms into something truly magical and truly beautiful.
Wow, that is so powerful.
Like that it's not just all like flowers and daisies and like sunshine.
There are hard moments and hard people, and there are things in our life there are circumstances we can't control, and I like that she brings those things up.
And so I'm obsessed with the way that she writes a romance. I would die to literally marry any single one of those literary men that she writes about. They're all incredible.
Okay, they're talking about fictional characters. Fictional characters. Am I getting through to you?
And she writes about amazing men and amazing women. She writes about some of the most amazing women that I've ever read, and I'm inspired by every single one of them.
I'm just not in love with them like I'm in love with the guys, so...
You mean you don't like me?
But yeah, I get it. Like, she just writes about amazing people, and she writes these amazing stories that are just really impactful. And then this third thing, is very similar to the last one that I just talked about, how like she writes about a relationship, but she knows how to like pull at the heartstrings. And something that I've talked about before is she writes with such a humanness, writes with such openness, writes with such like passion and vigor and fury of the human spirit and the human soul, and I love that.
I love it! I love it more! I love it!
I love that everything she writes is so raw and real, and like, even if it's like a gape, sometimes you're like reading it and it's like looking at a gaping wound and you're just,
Oh! Ew!
and you're just like, oh, it's so painful, but I can't look away.
Why would you say that? Like, you put me in such an uncomfortable situation. Like,
It like pulls at your heartstrings, and you're just being pulled and sucked into this like moment with these two people, and you're just like,
You can't help but like fall in love with the way that she writes. She has some of the best, oh my gosh, she has some of the best one-liners in every single one of her books. She always has like these incredible one-liners that like always touch my heart so truly touch my heart like so deeply. She always shows like life as it is, like it is both beautiful and hard and gorgeous and strange and irritating and wonderful, like everything about it. It's always bittersweet. Life is just bittersweet. And I love that she writes that way. I like that she writes honestly and so openly, and she really knows how to like,
She knows how to pull at your heartstrings and make you think about things, and I love that about her books.
and so now I'm gonna list a couple of my favorite books that I've ever read by her, and then I'm gonna be doing an overall review of her most recent book, The Songbook of Benny Lament, that I already previously mentioned. Now, one of the ones that I want to talk about first is one that I've already previously mentioned, so I won't talk for too long, but it's one that I've already previously mentioned as one of the best contemporary romances that I've ever read, and it is A Different Blue.
He looks blue. I'd say brownish gold.
A Different Blue is incredible. It is a book, like if you are looking for something about redemption and grace and love and acceptance of one's past and
It's, you gotta put your past behind you.
how does your past define you kind of thing, this is the book for you. It is an all-encompassing book that like touches on so many different types of struggles of the human experience.
so the story follows a girl named Blue Echo Hawk who was abandoned at 2 years old and put into the foster care system. And she's basically gone her entire life like not knowing who she is. Until in her senior year of high school, she doesn't know how old she is either, so she's like 19, 20, and there's a new teacher, her new history teacher, Mr. Wilson, who happens to be a 22-year-old British man. Yes, I can see where this is going. And it is all about their experience together, and
Don't worry, I swear the romance isn't creepy. I know I've already discussed, like I did a whole segment in a different video about how the romance isn't creepy. I'll insert the clip. Hey, it's me editing the video, and I just realized, so I just realized this clip where I tell you that I'm gonna give you extra footage of when I talked about this book, I just realized I actually haven't talked about it, and I thought that I had, and I think it was because I was going to talk about it in a different video, and then I cut that segment from that, and I couldn't find my old footage. So therefore, I have nothing to give you to show you why the romance isn't creepy. So I'm just going to tell you now. The romance is not creepy. All of the romance aspects of the book occur after high school. And so like when she's graduated, but even still, like the age difference isn't very like steep between them. And I swear that it's not weird. Like, I promise it's not weird. I know that it sounds really weird, but it's not. It's incredible. You need to read it. Okay, enjoy the video. it is something that will completely like change your perspective on life and on children and on the foster care system, and also on like your past and like what it means like to know, what it means to know where you come from and what that knowledge will do for you in the future, and also like what it means to come to grace and come to acceptance within yourself of like who you are. And I just love that book. I love it so much. I'm such a big fan of it, and everyone should read this book. Then we have one of my most favorite fantasy series. It's actually just a little duology that she wrote a little while ago, but it is called The Bird and the Sword and The Queen and the Cure. And this is like a little duology set that she wrote, and I am absolutely obsessed with this little fantasy series.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Of course, a lot of
It is incredible. This is probably, I'm going to do a, in the future, I want to do a unique book tag of like unique books that nobody really talks about. These two are both books that I want to talk about because they're so unique in the fantasy genre. I have never read anything like this before in my entire life. It's a plot that I would never have thought of, and yet it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
I think it's brilliant.
The Bird and the Sword is about a young princess named Lark who is cursed by her mother when she was a child that she would never speak again.
And so when Lark is older, the king of a neighboring kingdom sees her and decides that he wants to take her back to his kingdom, basically being held ransom against her father, who is the king, because he went back on some deals that they did. It's not important. Anyways, Tyrus and Lark end up becoming very close friends, and there's a very unique kind of magic system in this book.
And these two basically have to figure out what's going on. There's something going wrong in the kingdom. The king is sick, Tyrus is sick, and Lark is helping him figure out why and how to help the kingdom as well. And so it's really interesting to be able to like read a book from the perspective of someone who literally cannot speak their mind.
No more talking, singing, zip.
It's so interesting, and I think that this book is like completely underrated, absolutely undeserved. It is a fabulous book, and everyone should read it. And then The Queen and the Cure, which is the second book to this series. The Queen and the Cure is about two different characters that are also within this Bird and the Sword, but they, like the people from Bird and the Sword are also connected. So it's kind of like one of those where it's kind of like a spin-off book, but it's still very good, very impactful, very sweet. The romance is very palpable, and the love is very real. I really connected with Lark in a lot of ways, a lot of ways that I didn't think I would, because I'll be honest, I'm a big talker, if you couldn't already tell. Pretty obvious. I'm a big talker. I like to talk a lot. And I connected with this girl who like could not talk for some reason. And it's such an interesting book. Everyone should read it. It is fabulous. Now, I wanted to give honorable mentions really quick before I decide to talk about the songbook of Benny Lament. But my honorable mentions, which I've mentioned both of these books several times already, but they're just my favorite, and I can't go without talking about them at least once. I know you're all sick of hearing me talk about Where the Lost Wanderer, but I'm going to talk about it.
What again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare.
Where the Lost Wanderer. Amy Harmon's Where the Lost Wanderer. Please read this book so that I can finally talk to someone about it, because I'm going crazy, okay? I've talked to some people about it, but like not enough. It is the best historical fiction that I've ever read, and honestly, I think it's one of the best pieces of literature that have ever been written on the face of planet Earth.
Okay, period.
Yes, I'm going to stick with that statement.
That's quite a statement, Eddie.
Fine, I'm not even ashamed to say it. I've talked about Where the Lost Wanderer I've talked about the book Where the Lost Wanderer in so many different videos at this point. I mention it every second I get when I want to talk about historical fiction because it is the best historical fiction I've ever read. But Where the Lost Wanderer, I have to talk about it because it's literally the best thing I've ever read. And I think that Amy Harmon is an incredible author for writing such an incredible book.
And of course, another honorable mention to the book Making Faces, as well, by Amy Harmon. This is a contemporary romance, and it is fabulous. And I've already talked about it before in some of the most underrated contemporary books. I've talked about this one. I love this one. Everyone should read this one.
If you are looking for an adorable, small town romance, but also with like a much bigger impact on society and a way bigger, and an even bigger heartfelt, soul wrenching story, Making Faces is for you.
So those are my two little honorable mentions really fast. Where the Lost Wanderer, Making Faces. I've already talked about them a ton. Just wanted to talk about them one more time to plug them. You're welcome. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The Songbook of Benny Lament. So I literally finished this book last night at midnight. I literally did. At midnight, I finished it. And I
wept for about 30 minutes. Just sobbed. Went back and read the last chapter at least 3 times, and then wept some more.
And now I reckon I cry 4 times a week. I don't cry 4 times a week, but I cry a lot. starts crying now. No, I don't cry that much. I cry like all the time.
And then I decided to DM Amy Harmon on my Instagram and just tell her thank you for the book. It is an incredible book, and I'm so happy that she wrote it, and she talked about Benny and Esther's story. It truly is one for the ages, and Amy Harmon was gracious enough to write me back and say a little thank you, so I'll insert that little picture, a screenshot of our DMs. But it truly meant the world to me that she responded, and if she ever sees this video, I hope that she does and knows how much I love her and how much I've adored her for so long. And now I'm just going to keep on talking about her books because I think they're